What's going on, everybody? All right, I am recovering from this cold, probably COVID. You probably heard it in my voice a little bit at the end of last week. Still battling through it. All good. I will be fine. I will continue on. Nothing is going to stop us. If you did not check out my video on Friday, really enjoyed sharing the 10 cards from my collection that I find are the most beautiful, not most expensive, but most beautiful. Then on Saturday, I kind of did a little bit of an update because I hadn't done an update in about a month on the whole situation with grading and SGC. Just sharing some facts, just going through a timeline from the moment that Collectors, the parent company of PSA, purchased SGC, and kind of what has happened since, and where is maybe that leading. But again, just looking at the facts of the situation. So if you haven't seen those videos, check that out. Also, Saturday morning, my most recent Surface Issues podcast with my buddy Mike of Junk Wax Hero, that posted to our Sports Card Clubhouse podcast group on Spotify and Apple. And check that out if you haven't. It will be posting later this week on YouTube if you'd prefer this platform. But last week, I asked a question that I really like, because part of collecting to me is not just about having cards. It's how we obtain the cards, how we connect to the cards physically. Like, do we go to a show and we were looking for a particular card and then it shows up? Does somebody reach out to us because they know we're looking for a card? What is the way? What is the method? How did we and the card become united? And sometimes it's not a card that we're looking for. Sometimes it's a card that it feels like is looking for us. So times where a card found us instead of we found the card, those are some of the most memorable moments in collecting. I went heavy for about a year and a half building my N19 Pirates of the Spanish Main collection set of 50 cards from Allen and Ginter. You guys know I got big into those pirate cards. I still am. And I love them. And I didn't even know they existed before I looked down in a case and saw one at a show. And I asked the dealer, what is that? And I bought it for $20. And that immediately, the whole drive home, my dad drove to the card show that day, and I was researching these cards like crazy the whole way home. It took me on an 18-month journey of building that set. Now I'm going to slowly, possibly be upgrading some of the cards along the way to continue to improve it because I love that set so much. So there are times where we may not be focused on a particular card, but somehow our trajectory and the card's trajectory intersect and we find each other. And those stories and those experiences, a lot of the times, are the most memorable. I want to go through several of your stories. I had a lot of great responses. I'm going to include about 6 or 7. I think I had about 15 or 20. Thank you to everybody who submitted one. But I'm going to share a few of those. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few of these really cool stories right here. Sometimes a card just isn't even on your radar at all. My good friend Dave said, while attending the 2025 National in Chicago, I was at the REA booth where they exhibited many impressive cards for their upcoming auction. The director of consignment was showing me several cards that he thought I would be interested in. As I passed one case, one card immediately caught my eye. It was the M116 Sporting News card of Mathewson. I am sure I had previously seen that card, but I don't remember it. It was not a set that I had targeted, but I felt it was an absolutely beautiful card. I decided to go for the card, and I won it in their auction. Life can be full of surprises. Another good friend, this time Darren of Return to Collecting, says, "Great video, Greg. liked hearing what the community is thinking. As for next week's question, I usually find my cards, but every once in a while a card finds me. At this year's Strongsville, a big Cuban card dealer brought a card that I had never mentioned and never had on a list. He mentioned to my pal Sammy Thunder that he brought a card for me to see. Sammy brought me over to his table, and there it was, the most perfect 1946 Propagandist Montiel, Joe DiMaggio, in a 1 with a wormhole. I never thought to acquire that card before, but when I held it in my hand, I knew that the card had found me. It's now on my short list of cards that I'd never sell. My good pal Dan of Dan's Vintage Baseball PC says, for next week's question, I went to this year's National with a very specific list and researched values and trends in advance. One card on the list I even had advance notice of, who had it, thanks Greg, and I beelined it to that dealer the moment I entered the show. But there was one big card that found me on the first day, and I couldn't be happier that it did. I was so pleased to see the excellent dealer Phil Gary at the show and spent time on Wednesday chatting with him and looking over his inventory. And then I saw it. The 1946-47 Caramello Deportivo of Martin Dihigo. The card was priced reasonably because it was authentic due to a difficult removal from an album where it sat for decades. Phil worked with me on the price, and suddenly I was the owner of an iconic card of one of the greatest baseball players of all time. This was particularly meaningful as a member of this community because Scott's amazing gesture for Orlando was fresh in my mind, and I was already the proud owner of 2 of Scott's Dihigo artwork cards. Being able to share my incredible fortune with friends throughout the week made it even more special. And my dad writes, it's funny that the card that found me is the one that you mentioned a couple of times in your recent videos. I had never thought I would ever buy a Frank Robinson rookie. Believe me, I have great admiration for Frank's exploits on the field, his historical managing position, as well as his front office participation. I went to my buddy Craig's table last weekend, and it caught my eye. The more I looked at it, the more I had to have it. The front looked like a 7 or an 8, and the back had a small trace of wax on it, which is the only possible reason for the lower grade. When I walked away with the card, I had a warm feeling that I still feel while talking about it. It's so interesting at times where I'll look at a video and I'll be recording a video like this, and something will just kind of just smack me across the face. And this particular episode and this first section is one of those things. You know, I just listed 4 responses, wonderful thought out responses, wonderful collections, each of them. And all 4 of those people are super special to me. My good buddy Dave, who I had on the channel in December, I did a long 2-part discussion with him about his collection. One of the most best and most amazing card collections in the world is owned by Dave. And I met him at the 2024 National in Cleveland. He brought a bunch of cards. I was just thrilled to look through them. We correspond all the time via text message. And he's become a good friend. And Darren, you guys know Darren is a good friend of mine. Not just card friends. These are friends. And, you know, Darren and I do off topic. Probably the thing I look forward to the most each month on my channel is that I love talking about cards. In fact, I've been thinking a lot lately about making a few tweaks to the channel, because one of the things I love doing is just having discussions with other collectors and picking their brain on how they collect and why they collect the way that they collect. And I love those talks. I love those conversations. And it's really fun to do that with a good friend like Darren and who has an amazing collection like Darren. And then over the last year, I've become good buddies with my friend Dan of Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. And, we have our little show that we need to do. We haven't recorded one in a minute, called Community Service Project. And he's a great guy, and I correspond with him daily. And then obviously my dad. And if I go back to the start of this channel, not that long ago, I mean, it's like exactly 3 years ago. Maybe not to the day, but within about a week, that the channel had its first video. And I didn't know any of these people. I wasn't a person who watched a ton of YouTube and became known to people from commenting and interacting, and then I started a channel. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone when I started my channel. Nobody knew me. I didn't know anybody. I would make a video, I would post it, it would go out into space, and went unnoticed, which is okay. That's fine. And now here I am 3 years later, and I'm getting responses from people that are important to me. That's really cool. So let me now start to respond to those responses. First, Dave, who has this incredible collection. Now, I'm going to put on the screen just this absolutely one of the most amazing card pictures I've ever seen. This is Dave's safe deposit box. He sent me this picture. He sent me and Darren. Me, Darren, and Dave are in a little chat group, and we text all the time. And Dave sent me this picture of his safe deposit box. And when you look at these cards, it's amazing that he has all of these cards in his safe deposit box. But what's even more amazing is the quality of the cards. If all of those cards were in authentic, beat to heck condition, it would be amazing. But these cards are high grade cards. That picture has some amazingness in it. Absolutely mind blowing. Like cue Greg's head exploding. And at the bottom right hand corner of the picture, you can see the Christy Mathewson that caught his eye at the National this year, at the REA booth. And he was looking through the cases and, whoa, what is that? And then when that card found him, he then had to bid for it at the REA auction, and he won it. And in it went with the rest of this incredible collection that he has. That is such a great story. That is such a great series of events that he shared. And that picture really, to me, epitomizes not just how amazing his collection is, but it tells the story of the recently added card down there at the bottom right-hand corner. And what's the next card that's going to be added to this incredible collection? You know, being with Darren at this past year's Strongsville show when Darren picked up that DiMaggio. And the thing about that DiMaggio card is, like, Darren, he's a big Yankee fan. He's a big Joe DiMaggio fan. He wanted to put together a DiMaggio run. And then you kind of think, well, I pretty much got him now. And then every time you turn around, you're like, wait a second, there's this other card. And then there's this other card. And now Darren's on this kick where he's trying to get every Joe DiMaggio card, like all of them. And that's a beautiful card that he added to his collection. And it's cool that the dealer showed up and was like, I think Darren would like this. The dealer saw Sammy, said, hey, Sammy, I know you know Darren. Get Darren over here. I got a card I think he'd like. And then Sammy finds Darren, and then Darren goes over there. Darren sees it, wasn't planning on buying it, but immediately buys it. Those are such cool experiences. You know, everything that's been going on with our buddy Orlando and what he's been going through, and our friend Scott at Ranger Studio did this amazing Martin DeHigo painting and did a whole episode on it, and Orlando showed it, and Orlando loved it, obviously, and Dihigo is really kind of almost like a symbolic guy of Orlando and Orlando's channel, and we all love him. And so, for Dan to pick up that card at the National, and it's super special. And my dad has an incredible card collection. And, the Frank Robinson, I mean, if you look statistically at Frank Robinson, you just go, man, stat-wise, guy's incredible. Yet his cards, just cost-wise, are so much less than other players of his stature, as far as the stats go, as far as the record books go, as far as his career accomplishments go. It's pretty amazing. I mean, if you were to say who is the most underappreciated player in the hobby, you could make a strong argument that it's Frank Robinson. In fact, maybe that should have been this week's question. It's not, but Frank Robinson, you could make the argument. There are some others, but very, very underappreciated. And he picked up a beautiful card. And I'm standing there with him at our buddy Craig's table, and down we look, and he's looking at that, and we're like, that's a pretty nice card. And he starts looking at it. Why is it only a 5? And he ends up buying it, and he was like giddy on the way home. He was like, man, I picked up this awesome card. I think the moral of the story with these 4 responses, and we're going to hear from more, but I think the moral of the story from these 4 responses is, when you go out in search of additions for your collection, be open to whatever presents itself. Now, I've said this many times, and I'll talk more about this later in this video, where it's good to have focus, because if you don't have any focus, then what you do is you end up finding yourself going down all of these different rabbit holes. Rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. You're never really able to accomplish any major goals. But if you're too focused, there might be times where this just gift just falls into your lap. And I've had as much fun putting together my pirate card collection as just about anything I've done in the hobby. I absolutely loved that and love it. It's not over. It's complete, but it's not done. But the thing about that is had I not stopped at this dealer's table, who was a non-sport dealer, and talked to him for an hour and a half, and picked his brain and looked through his inventory and went through his binders and went through his boxes and went through all of the stuff, I wouldn't have gone on that journey. So I think that there's a difference between being open-minded and being targeted with what you're doing, and being too open-minded, being not open-minded enough. We have to always have the door cracked, because you never know what options might be out there. And that's not just with cards. That's with all things in life. Always be open to something new. And I'm not telling you guys this because I'm an expert at this. I'm telling myself this as much as I'm telling you guys this, is be open to what presents itself. Because at times there might be something that just lands in your lap that ends up being very, very special, that you otherwise maybe wouldn't have even considered if you're too focused or you're not open to something different. Just my take there. But let's hear from some more of your responses. Sometimes you find a whole new category of cards for your collection. My buddy Larry writes, I believe it was the 2013 National, my first time in Cleveland. I was walking the vast floor, Came across an older dealer from Arizona with tables full of non-sports only. I knew absolutely nothing about non-sports cards, but started looking through albums and came across these ungraded, ornate cards from the 19th century. I asked the dealer what they were, and he said they were from 1888 Dukes, Sons and Company, designated N76. They were priced at $20 each. I was instantly in love with the set and could not just pick one, so I picked out 4 cards as they all talked to me. A Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, and a Thomas Edison. I know I picked up a ton of sports cards at the National, but these are the only transaction I remember. This next one says, modern example. A few weeks ago, a special card just found me. Went to a local LCS looking for vintage. Found nice examples of a 51 Burke Ross Joe DiMaggio, 55 Jackie Robinson, 55 Clemente, 1960 Mantle, and 56 Hank Aaron. However, next to the vintage case sat a 2025 Topps Cal Raleigh, 1 of 1, game-used nameplate letter R card. My gut said that even though I came for something else, it was a must-buy. That afternoon, he coincidentally broke Mantle's switch-hitting single-season home run mark and Griffey's single-season Mariners home run record. Days later, he hit number 60. Now I have a card I feel comfortable keeping forever, but part of me is tempted to sell it and move into a high-grade vintage card of Cobb, Mantle, or Robinson. Best case scenario, I have a card I love. Worst case, I have a card I love. But I literally just found me at the right time and place. I had zero intentions of looking for something like it, and yet it chose me, a true 1 of 1. P.S. Love the channel and content. There are so many different categories of card collecting. So many different categories. Whether it be a different sport, a different era, modern, 80s, golden era, pre-war, turn of the century, whether it be Topps versus Bowman, whether it be football versus basketball versus cricket versus soccer versus golf, whether it be non-sport, whether it be historical figures, whether it be inventors, whether it be, Native Americans, there are a lot of categories of card collecting. And I was just saying a second ago how much fun I had collecting cards of pirates. And I know that a lot of you out there go, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of cute. It's cute that Greg collected these pirate cards. It is, I don't know if it's cute, but it was a lot of fun. And it has been so much fun. Now, there are several collectors that I consider friends. I don't know if they consider me friends, but I consider them my friends that have started to dabble or have been dabbling in non-sport cards. And I can tell you this, the rush from that is incredible. And the reason that the rush is incredible is because in card collecting, for me, and again, I'm just speaking for me, everybody's got to have their own thing. For me, like I talked about last week, or the week before, I guess it was, I love hunting for things. I love looking and searching and trying to find something that you can't see everywhere. Now, if anybody wants a 1985 Topps Wade Boggs, you can get a 10, a 9, an 8, a 7, a 6, a raw, a centered, an off-centered, in the easiest Google search of all time, and it could be here in a few days. Now maybe you're a nostalgia collector, and I think I might have that card. I have a lot of cards like that are in that category because I love nostalgia, and I love remembering my childhood. I love that. But the thing that gets my gears turning the most, the thing that just absolutely gets me so fired up is when there's a difficult thing to find and I find it, and I find it at the price, and I find it with the look that is the right thing. And our examples here, I mean, the N76 cards, my goodness. I mean, $20. Oh, that's the other thing. A lot of these other categories have exploded in popularity, and then as a result, because the demand has gone way up, the values have gone insane on some of these things because they went from kind of shunned to like more widely accepted, and they've really taken off in value. And those N76, that set, the Great American set from Duke, is just gorgeous. And again, I have one card from that set. There are a few more I would love to add. I have the Thomas Edison. I have several friends that have a 2 or 3 of them. But I never, if I was like, oh, no, I collect baseball cards, that doesn't really fit with what I'm doing, then I would be missing out. I mean, that Thomas Edison card, if you were to ask me, I mean, it was in my top on Friday. It was in my top 10 most beautiful cards. If I could only keep 5 cards in my collection, that would be one of them. It's a non-sport card. Now, some of you think, this guy's nuts. Maybe. But all I'm trying to say is this. I'm really trying to convince people to be willing to explore areas that they weren't previously open to. Maybe you just want to crack the door to pre-war. Maybe you want to crack the door to football. Maybe you want to crack the door to basketball. Maybe you want to start looking at some modern. And I got to tell you guys, I've been fighting this modern thing for a long time, but I've been looking at modern stuff more than I ever have. Now, when I say modern, I mean anything after like 1980 is, to me, modern. Maybe 1990 at this point is modern. There's some stuff in there, and I'm like, I don't know. I think I kind of want it. But whether it's, the Seattle Mariners catcher, or whether it's the, first baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays, whatever it is, that is a category that you've just saying, I'm not going to open that door. I'm telling you, the excitement of when you go down a new category it's almost like starting the hobby all over again, because you start looking around and there's just this amazing stuff everywhere. I'm a guy who tries to stay focused, but I'm also a guy who thinks that there's a possibility that there are some opportunities out there that you would like as much or more than what you're doing now. So maybe at least try and see what you think. Sometimes you've just got to be open to anything. This first one says, I don't think I could collect just 2 players. If I absolutely had to, I guess McGuire and Ohtani, as they are my favorite players that I've seen play. It would hurt because I love collecting vintage more. To answer this week's question, the cards mostly always find me. I have a list, but it is rare that I stick to it. I think it's better when the card finds me. It's usually a great card I didn't realize was great. It's within the budget, has the appeal I'm looking for. More than half the time, the card finds me, especially at shows or shops. And finally, this one says, I had to take a day off of work and drive 2 hours to pick my wife up at the airport. Her flight had been delayed, so I decided to check out a local card shop. There was a few boxes of vintage commons, but not one card on my list. As I was walking to the door, I spotted a single SGC slab in the display case amongst the Pokemon and Rainbow Sparkle rookie cards. The card looked good at arm's length and was priced below comps. I never seriously considered this card would ever be in my collection. It's normally priced over my monthly budget, and I'm not going to save up for any Chicago Bears card. After a brief negotiation, I purchased the 1976 Topps Walter Payton rookie card, and I'm really glad I did. I would have never gone into the store if I knew it was a TCG and modern card shop. Now I look at all the shops and tables at shows because you never know. I'd like to thank Southwest Airlines. Imagine going into the National or any big card show, whatever the biggest card show you attend. Imagine going to the biggest card show that you attend and having no list, having no game plan, having just, I'm going to walk around, and if I like it, I'm going to buy it. Just imagine that for a second. Is it possible that that would be more fun than going on this chase throughout the show looking for some specific cards? Is it possible that that would be more fun? I feel when I get to a show like the National or Strongsville or one of the bigger local shows that we have, when I'm going through the cases, I feel like I have a little bit of anxiety. I have like well, what if I don't find it? What if I don't find it today? What if somebody finds it before me? What if I don't find what I came here for? Then is the trip a waste? I think a lot of us can relate, but imagine driving to the airport, having an extra little bit of time to spare, and going, I'm going to go through this TCG card shop. And then they've got some sports cards. And then they've got a card that you always would have liked to have at a really good price. Just walking in the door was sort of like, well, what are you expecting? If you expect nothing, then you would walk through the door. If you have no expectations and your eyes are open to whatever your eyes catch, then that could be really freeing. I mean, I don't know if I could do it. Just to be honest with you, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could show up to the National or Strongsville without any agenda. I don't know if I could. But the thought of doing that and the thought of just walking around and whatever catches my eye, that sounds amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing to me. Now, would it be amazing? I don't know. But it sounds like it would be. Again, an agenda and a focus can also lead to anxiety. It could lead to frustration. It could also lead to making the wrong purchase. Now, let's just talk about that for a second. Sometimes when you say, I'm here and that's my number one target, you buy the one that may not be the right one. You force it. You force it instead of just being patient. And sometimes the patience leads to the right card instead of a card that checks some of the boxes. If you just walked into the National, you walked around and you waited for a card that you just thought was beautiful, that you said, I want that. I have a feeling you're going to go home with a card that you're really excited about. But if you said, before I leave this show, I am going to come home with a 1959 Topps Bob Gibson rookie card, and then you force it, you get one even though it's not the one. One thing I think that we've all probably done is we've probably forced a card that wasn't really the right card, but we said, no, I came here for this, so I'm going to get it. And you're not really in love with it. You're not really in love with it. But the cards that you went to the show not expecting to buy, not even on your radar, but you came home with, I have a feeling those are some of your favorite cards, right? Some of your favorite cards are the cards that when you saw them, you said, oh my gosh, that thing is awesome. I need that. That's the whole point of this cards that find you. Cards that find you are cards that you can't resist. You can't resist that card. You saw it, you looked at it, and you said, I need to have that. Those are the cards that you truly love. The cards that you have in your mind that you need. Oh, I need that card. I have to go get that card. I need that card in my collection. And then you search for one. Searching. A lot of the times, I think you probably find a card that doesn't quite satisfy what you were hoping for. But you stick it in your collection, and you just kind of try to overlook the things that bug you about it. I think that you are nodding your head going, yeah, he's right. I do that. I have a couple of cards. My advice is if there's something about the card that is bugging you that you don't like, and you bought the card because you forced it, set it free. Set that card free, and then be open to what the cards are that you can't resist. A card that finds you is not actually a card with eyes and legs, and you're at the show and it runs after you and it comes up and it bumps into your knee and it nudges you with its elbow and it says, hey, you should buy me. That's not what that means. What a card that finds you means is you can't resist that card because you like it so much, you have to get it, even though you weren't planning on getting it. Those are the cards that you love. I think I'm right. I think you know I'm right. But maybe I'm wrong. So, those are my thoughts on this. I love this topic. And I want to talk to you about next week's topic. And next week's topic is another really interesting question, I think, or I wouldn't have asked, or wouldn't be asking it. I've heard a couple of channels ask this topic recently. My guy Iowa Dave, the shallow end, Chris Hoge on the crossover, and a little bit on another the Hoge cast that he does, brought up this topic, and the terminology that they used for this might be slightly different, but the question or the concept is this: should we care what non-collectors think about our collections? Why or why not? Now, in the crossover, I think they referred to it as tourists. They said, should we care what tourists think of our collection? When a random person comes over to your house and they find out you like cards and you show them some cards, should we care what those sorts of people think and which cards they like? Or should we be more focused on what other collectors think? Or should we not care at all what collectors think or tourists think and only care what we think? That's my question for this week. Really, really interested to hear your thoughts. Should we care what non-collectors think about our collection? Specifically, why or why not? Let me know your thoughts. I look forward to hearing them.